could you share how you started doing this work and how, yeah, where did it begin and what was the path that led you to where you are today?
I will say that throughout my whole life, I've always had a lot of interest in spirituality and a lot of interest in sexuality. So at a certain point, I also had started studying psychology, kinesiology, holistic health, and a lot of inquiry into sex. And when I came across a very beautiful man that had been doing this work for many years, he had already created this certain style of energy work, and that particular style was something that he had shown to me that was an exploration from my part, and basically showed me how I could take all these interests that I had with spirituality, sexuality, and make it a service for people, to be of assistance to people. And then from there, from that seed being planted, the rest is just years of playing with all of it, because the greatest teacher is going to be life. The greatest teachers on top of that is every single person that I ever come across. Because every one of those interactions, every story, every body that I work with, meaning the body of the individual, communicates and shares so much knowledge with me. So through those many, many years, that's the exploration. It's just paying attention to life. That's where the real learning comes from.
What an amazing choice, you know, spirituality and sexuality, two things that in our contemporary life are so disconnected. We had a conference here for 5 days with spiritual teachers, and no one mentioned the word sex. What happened to humanity? It's like, why we are in this place?
And it's fascinating, right? Because we can talk about spirituality, we can talk about health, and then we're scared to even mention the word penis and vagina. But it's an aspect of our body. And in fact, there are two parts of a body that actually bring life into existence. How important is that? And yet, it's taboo, and then we have over-sexualized things, so we have so much perversion in our world, and then so much of this repression in our world. And of course, those two happen side by side because one feeds the other. And no one talks about sex. No one talks about sex from a place of naturalness, from a place of understanding that sex is medicine, and sex is a tool for transformation, for healing, for raising consciousness. So you have people that are spiritual teachers, and then somebody naked walks into a room and everybody freaks out, including the teacher. I don't understand that, because this body, this being, this existence is spiritual, it's natural, it's who we are. We are born through sex. We're created through sex. How could we possibly deny such an important aspect of our life and our existence and think that we're going to grow and evolve into magnanimous, beautiful beings? It's the root of everything. So a really important topic to cover in regards to sex is the deep question that people rarely ask, and that is, why is sex so taboo? Why is sex so perverted? Why is it that we have been robbed of our connection to sex? Well, if sex is such a powerful tool and a way for us to empower ourselves as individuals, then it makes sense for us to be robbed of that to maintain our society and our culture in the way that it has been, which is really nowadays a fancy slave culture. So it's so important for us to regain that connection, to understand what sex is really about, to understand our nature as sexual, sensual beings. Because this life, we have this body, we have pleasure. Orgasmicness is our birthright. So we run for what makes us feel uncomfortable, and through all the conditioning that we receive, nakedness feels uncomfortable. Nudity feels uncomfortable, and not just with the body, but being naked emotionally, revealing oneself to another. So there's so many layers of importance to getting back to nature, and sex is such an incredible tool and medicine for us as a humanity to re-empower ourselves, to understand the pleasure, the birthright, the experience that we came here to enjoy, not be miserable and sad and angry. but to understand that this experience has everything in it for us to be joyful, empowered, loving, compassionate human beings.
So how do we even begin? Because we carry so much conditioning and limitations around sexuality, around our bodies. What's the pathway to this naturalness that it sounds and it feels amazing, but we're so disconnected from that?
The first step to every transformation is a desire for change, because you can never force somebody to change. But that inquiry, that question, that desire for more in life is the first step. Once you make that intention for yourself for that more, you will have the drive to stop distracting yourself from everything. Because why is it that we don't have pleasure? Why is it that we don't have naturalness? Because we have been through life. We've been through trauma. We've been through experiences. We're holding on to feelings. We carry anger and sadness and grief in our bodies. And then we run from having to feel all those things. But what does it mean to be natural? What do babies do? They feel, they experience life. They enjoy their sensuality, really, living through their senses.
Where do we begin to claim that aliveness and that naturalness that you speak?
We begin by refraining from running from ourselves. Because that pleasure, that orgasmicness, that joy, the orgasmicness for being alive is who we are by nature. But what do we end up doing in our lives? We distract ourselves with every possible way that we can to not get inside to feel. And why is that? Well, we've been through life's experiences. We've had trauma. We've passed through challenging situations. We hold on to feelings. We hold on to grief and anger and sadness. Sometimes we even hold on to our pleasure. Because I don't hear a lot of people enjoying sex. We live in small apartments and buildings, and it seems like no one's having sex. So where is this expression? Where is that loud laughter and that joy and the pleasure that we have in life? We hold on to everything. And when we hold on to everything, we create blockages. We create pain just in the stagnant waters that are created internally. So how do we start to get that natural aspect back? Be honest. Be real with yourself. Be courageous enough to get inside to feel through everything that you have passed through in your life and have been running from because it's still held in the body. And how do we do that? Well, life provides us with so many opportunities. Every time we get triggered, every time we feel something, that's the gift of feeling as a sensitive human on this planet. The gift of being able to express and to be alive enough in the body for this expression. So every time that we're going through life and we're moving through life, how do you just let yourself rest in that and feel in that? And sex, our connection, intimacy, our sensuality, this gift that life has given us to touch, to kiss, to embrace, to be close to another human. What a beautiful practice it is for us to get in the bodies to feel. And we're scared of that. And no one is really connecting in sex, because true energetic lovemaking creates a lot of feeling. It creates depth. And no one wants to feel deeply, because the moment we get inside, first we feel our pain, and underneath all of that is the pleasure. So for most people, if they were to start to connect energetically, yes, energetic lovemaking is beautiful. It's blissful, it's that peace, it's that joy, it's that love, but the beginning part of our connection, just starting to connect with another individual, we have to pass through all the pain that we've been carrying. And that's what scares people. So we would rather starve ourselves from that intimacy to avoid moments of discomfort rather than diving into moments of discomfort to come out to the other side as pleasureful beings.
So the numbness we are all experiencing is a way to shut down so we don't feel the pain that is held.
But the true aspect, though, is that it's not about numbness. We're not numb. But why am I saying that? We're not numb because we feel so much, we run. If we were numb, we wouldn't have to distract ourselves with every single thing that we distract ourselves with. Humans are so sensitive. So it's not a numbness of feeling, it's the desire to escape from life and escape from pain and from oneself.
So would you say that before one is able to experience the aliveness, we do need to meet the pain in our bodies, the trauma, that shadow? Is it like a progressive path to aliveness, would you say?
I will say that in order to get there, you have to meet yourself. I wouldn't even say the pain, because we have such a big idea that we're carrying so much pain inside that we don't want to get there, when it's most of the time a moment that we need to pass through. Most of the breakthroughs that people have, and most of the trauma that gets resolved after carrying it for a lifetime, is a moment of seeing it, being present with it, feeling through it, releasing it. So we can be running for a lifetime to avoid something that could be momentaneous, to then have the rest of our life. And like I said, for a lot of people, it's not just that we're meeting our pain. Most people are running from themselves, and when they get inside, what they encounter is not just the pain. They may have a moment of pain and go, oh my God, I'm incredible. I am beautiful. How is it possible that I have been running from this? But that's the challenge for everybody, the inquiry, the desire. And how do we interact in sex with one another? Are we willing to breathe? I mean, breath. It's our connection to life. Children, they are so connected to life. And how do they breathe? Like accordions. Everything in them is moving. And adults hold.
My question is, we have all the spiritual teachers that are telling us how to meet ourselves, how to know ourselves, and yet we do not arrive at this place of orgasmic aliveness. Why?
I don't know what kind of teachers we have, because I don't know who you're referring to. But I will say that I have seen a lot of people speak a lot, and it's a lot of head stuff. And a lot of people that come listen with their head, they learn with their head, and they try to do with their head. Life happens through your body. That's the whole point of this life. When you finish this incarnation, you leave your body, but while you're here, you're with your body. So life is to be lived through that. Your transformation is to happen through that. You cannot have an awakening totally neglecting your body and never wanting to get in there to feel. Your power, your consciousness, your life is totally connected to this vehicle. And how could we possibly enjoy our life if we don't enjoy this? If we don't enjoy what we see, what we experience, what we feel, what we touch, and that's true for most people, especially women nowadays. Again, the programming, the conditioning, all the time. How do you disempower people? You make them hate themselves. And it's a harsh reality, but it's true. The way you control a people is by making them feel like they're nothing.
And that's the inner violence that we've developed, that instead of feeling it, they are violent with ourselves, by rejecting our pleasure and
yes.
And that's why the world is perhaps where it is today, because instead of feeling it in, we manifest it outside.
Right, and think about when we hurt another, where does that come from? Always from insecurity, right? Insecurity of self, because we don't feel good, so we think that if I hurt another, consciously or unconsciously, I feel more powerful. But all of that is false and pseudo, because we are powerful beings. We have been taught to forget our power. And we have been taught to forget the nature of our sensual nature, our sexual nature, in our ability to connect to this powerful creative force that we can call sexual energy, that can heal us from all kinds of imbalances, mental, emotional, physical. It recalibrates the whole system.
So the modality you're sharing, at the beginning it looks very much like trauma release for many people.
It is trauma release, but why? But why? Because we're holding on to trauma. So orgasmic states, be it on a yoga mat at a workshop, or be it in lovemaking, that orgasmic state is energy moving through the body, energy just flowing, flowing, flowing. And just like water, when that water starts to flood you, it's going to push out on everything that does not belong in this beautiful vehicle that you have. So the trauma that we hold, it's going to push it out. The feelings that we carry that don't belong in here, it's going to push it out. The memories, the conditioning, the false beliefs, all of that's going to come up to the surface. That's the whole point of healing, is to come back to nature. And nature means you come back to your natural state before you picked up all of these things and started carrying them around. So in these orgasmic states, it heals us because it cleans us. And it cleans us whether, like I said, the activation happens through a meditation, through an exercise, through what I'm sharing here at the conference, or in lovemaking. That's why sex is so beautiful. How do we use those states for healing?
What is mind-blowing is in your work is how it feels effortless and how quickly one goes so deep into feeling.
Nature is very simple. Nature is always simple. Truth is always simple. Everything that is real in this existence is very simple. And we overcomplicate everything. Our food, our sex, our way of being, our way of walking, our way of seeing. We overcomplicate everything. But in its truest sense, nature is very simple. So the moment you take out all of that complexity that we have been conditioned with, it's very easy and very simple. We have been taught so much to overcomplicate things, working things out with our mind, right? When people have trauma, they have anxiety, they have depression, they go to, let's say, the medical community. They either get pharmaceuticals or they get therapy. And most psychotherapy, what does it do? Lets you talk and talk and talk about what happens to the body. What happens to the memory that is being held in the body? Because the mind and the body are connected. So we know when we drink alcohol, it affects our bodily coordination. When we put things into the body, it affects the body, it affects the mind, it also affects how we think, right? So as long as we're holding on to, carrying these memories, these traumas, it's going to impact how we think. So in psychotherapy, they think that if we keep talking, we can work out the solution in the mind. And I'm saying, no, don't work with your mind. Get into your body, release that which is making you think the way that you do. And the moment that you get it out, now you think differently, not because you learn to think differently, but because you have become sober.
So how does conscious lovemaking feel like, taste like, look not look like, forget about look like.
But listen to what you just said though,
That's
right?
Why did I feel to that?
What a beautiful moment, as an example. We ask, what does it feel like? All those and then what does it look like? Oh no, God forbid we think about what it looks like.
I said that, but again, it's a filter, which I'm curious. I said it because I didn't want it to limit to a specific way of looking.
Yes.
That's why the filter came, but it's a spiritual filter, which is still a filter. So
yes.
Yeah, no, it's...
But think about how beautiful it would be if at least we could see people making love in a way that's beautiful. Because everybody's getting their sex education at this point, the younger generations, from pornography. They get to a certain age and they say, I want to know about sex. Whenever I want to know about something, I Google it. So I'm going to Google sex, and what do I find? So you're right in understanding what it should feel like, but it also would be beautiful for us to at least have the education somewhere so that we're not lost in the dark. Because if we're not providing that in some way, it is being provided anyway by the porn industry. So what is the flavor? The flavor is deep relaxation in oneself and the allowance of whatever wants to move through you. That's the best way for me to express it. Now, why am I saying it just like that? Am I going to say that it feels amazing and pleasurable? It doesn't even matter. This is the crazy programming that we have from Hollywood, from porn, all the performing that we have around sex having to be this fireworks orgasmic experience, which it is and will be. But as long as we are judging all of our other experiences because it's not that, we're actually scared to have the real healing that needs to go on. Because for most people, like I said, if they were to connect energetically, that first moment may not be, wow, I feel amazing. That first moment will be, wow, I feel a lot of grief for all the time, all the years that I have left myself, not allowed myself to love, not allowed myself to love, not allowed myself to be loved. The grief of that, the sadness of that, the anger, whatever needs to come out. So energetic lovemaking has no particular flavor other than it's the flavor where you're deeply relaxing, deeply letting go, and deeply allowing. And for most people, sex is a performance, an anxiety, and a mental fantasy. Whether it's for men that are fantasizing about visual aspects that they have been programmed with, or whether it's women that can fantasize about that, but maybe they're fantasizing about romantic ideas, which is a lot of the programming that they have received. So we've gotten out of the body and into the mind in sex. And sex has nothing to do with the mind. It has everything to do with feeling, allowing, relaxing, breathing, expressing. And how it looks from the outside will look so different from person to person, from day to day, from moment to moment. Because we can connect, have ourselves a beautiful cry from, the hard day that we had today, and oh my God, I've been holding so much, and now I'm in orgasmic bliss. And I'm not judging that, and I'm not comparing, and I'm not thinking energetic lovemaking has to look like this and like this. The only thing that I'm focused on is that I am totally feeling in my body and allowing myself to be moved, that it's not even me doing anything. It's, for lack of better words, God doing it.
And would you say in time, like my first taste of this, my first orgasmic release was very intense and it was cathartic, and would you say in time it becomes more ease, the intensity ceases? It's just at the beginning it felt like a flushing through my whole nervous system, not just mine, but really felt like generations before me, women, I released something through the body.
Yes.
And then there's a longing for that intensity because I enjoy intensity.
Yes.
But it feels like in time it becomes more and more subtle and less intense. Is that your experience, or?
Let me put it this way. First of all, subtlety is very powerful. The cathartic experience is not going to be the same every time, because that first release is the part that has been waiting to pop in you for a lifetime. Once that pops, we level out, but the intensity in your connection should not go anywhere other than keep going deeper and deeper in you. The only difference that I notice is that For myself, for example, I notice that my capacity for pleasure over time keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. So as we first go into actually experiencing pleasure, or having these sexual experiences that are very intense, it's almost like a shock to the system. And after a while, your capacity continues to expand, so you're still feeling just as much pleasure, but you become more meditative in it. And that's the truest spiritual practice, meditation. You know, what is meditation? A state of no mind. So when we get out all of this garbage and all of this thing that's just been waiting to get out and to get out, now you get into this place where you become an observer in a completely no mind state, filled with juiciness of your own existence. And that has been spoken about for aeons from spiritual masters all over, the blissful states that they go into when they meditate. Well, that's great and beautiful. And to have that with another human in a connection, at least my preference, I prefer that type of meditation.
I've had other very cathartic releases. So sometimes it's just, you know, Kundalini is not connected to anything, but it was not erotic. It didn't have the taste of yesterday in the room. Like my body became my life right away. The erotic energy started flowing, and you didn't do anything different than other teachers that have been there on that stage, speaking about surrendering and feeling in our bodies. Why? It's so direct. It's so.
Why do you have? Why do you have more, let's say, of a, I want to use your word, the erotic experience with this modality versus another one? It's a frequency of how we relate to ourselves, and that's radiated, right? So for me, my intention, the energy that I put out is that sex. Spark the sex in you. So that's what people feel. They feel that orgasmicness. They feel that sex. For me, it's just an energetic transmission of a particular frequency. And the rest, just to point this out, and the rest is what you do with it. Because even in those boring, cathartic experiences in another modality, you can make it be sexy. You can make it be erotic, because you are sex and you are erotic. So every time you're feeling and experiencing, where do you go with it? Where do you bring it? I once was in a yoga class, and we were doing this partner stretching. And I was stretching with this man with my legs split. We had our legs touching like this. And I started to feel so many things. And I thought, oh my God, if I keep breathing deeply into these stretches, it's gonna go down. And I'm looking at the man, and he's starting to kind of shake and tremble, and I'm saying, it's about to go down for him too. And at one point I had to make a choice. Do I care what people think, or do I use the moment in my life, grab it, snatch it up, and use it for my own growth, breakthrough, and transformation? And I used it. The class was happening, and I ended up going into this crazy orgasmic state where I had to lie down because I literally had no control over my body. I was shaking. And I was in all kinds of sounds, and gosh, the poor teacher, she just was like, okay, everybody, warrior pose, and just kind of ignored the whole thing. But I thought, it's your body. And what do you do with experiences in your body? And most of us, when that door starts to crack and that key starts to open it, we go, this is not appropriate. I can't go in this direction. I can't feel this. I can't feel that. I don't want to express myself. And we shut our own selves down. So my inspiration for you is, whenever you're in these other modalities and in other meditation practices, bring the sex into it. We all want more sensuality, more eroticism, more pleasure. But do we invite it in? Do we say yes to it? Do we say, I will create it right now in this moment?
as women, okay, I speak for myself, I do meet the challenge of, like, am I truly authentic and honest with my partner? And that's where I manipulate, protect him. Or
what are you protecting him from?
Or I am protecting myself from his reaction. So
in regards to what?
The question would be, how do we become deeply honest?
I need to understand what you're talking about, though. Because see, whatever you're doing with him, you just did it with me.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, great.
Because
great.
The thing that you're claiming and even saying yourself that you're being manipulative, it's not that we manipulate intentionally. It's just that we're scared to be so direct and revealing and honest.
Yes.
And
yes.
that hesitation is here with me because, well, you're just describing that's probably what you do with him.
Yeah. So how does one come to that radical honesty?
Stop caring about what people think. I know it sounds kind of simple and everybody has a challenge with it, but really truly you have to ask yourself, does it matter? Does it really matter? What is the worst thing that could happen from you being you? And is there anybody else more important for you in your life other than you? And really the answer for everybody should be no. There's nobody else more important than you. So for you to be in integrity with self, for you to speak truth, that's the most important part. And by doing that, you're loving yourself. And when you're loving yourself, that truth will always come out lovingly. And that's where we're scared. That manipulative part, that carefulness part, is because we think, I don't want to hurt that person's feelings. I don't want to disturb anything. But when we are connected to our truth and we're willing to share our truth, we love ourselves. It comes out of love. And when you love you, you can speak to people directly. You can say some things that if people saw you, they would go, I can't believe she just said that. But it will be so well received because there's not enough honesty and realness on this planet.
And I want to just say one more thing, that for myself, I have to also love myself when I'm not able to be in this beautiful honesty.
Mm-hmm.
It's a practice that I might not have it.
Mm-hmm.
I might not be there every time.
So you just laugh. Why not? That's like what we did today. I told everybody, just laugh, because we get too serious about things.
Yes.
And we have been taught that, right? Because even as little kids, you make one little mistake and you get punished for it. You're doing this wrong. Sit down. Do this, do that. So we're scared to play. We have been taught out of playing, and life is a game. You're playing with yourself. You're playing at being yourself. And yeah, you're gonna make mistakes, but be light about it. It's funny and playful to actually see how life works and how we function. Because we're really biocomputers. And the way that we've been conditioned and the way that we act is you either have to cry or laugh about it. I choose to laugh about it.
So what does it mean for one to live an authentic life?
What does it mean to live an authentic life? You be you. What more can you do? It's interesting that we even have a word for it that is so much talked about in our culture. When it's just you. You know, there's no 3-year-old child that goes, I want to be authentic as I possibly can. They're just themselves.
And yet that is to me the spiritual practice, because that you has so many layers of conditioning
and inquire into yourself. Is this particular thing, is what I just said, is that even true? Where did I get that from? Do I even feel like that? And the best place to play is in relating. You know, you can see with any partner that you have, sometimes things will come out of our mouth and just ask yourself, where did that come from? Is that something maybe I heard my mother say? Is that something that I have seen in a movie? Is this something that I really truly care about and I'm honest enough to actually say it, or did I get this from somewhere else? Because most people, what comes out of their mouth was taught. And the way to start being more authentic is to actually question whether what you're doing and saying is really who you? Is it really who you are? And for most people, they just defend their craziness. We like to identify with things. So once we have an identity, once we say, this is what I do, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, we will defend it with our life, even if it's hurting us, even if it's working against us. That lacks intelligence. That's a lack of intelligence. And that's why I'm saying that the first step to transformation is a desire. Because you cannot change something that you cannot see you want to change. And you have to desire to see that. You have to have a desire to really see the aspects of you that you may think, you know what? I don't think that works for me.
I think that's for many of us, this is the impulse towards spirituality, is that longing to know ourselves.
Yes. But being brave enough to
keep inquiring.
To inquire into the parts that make us uncomfortable. Because I find in the spiritual community, a lot of what happens is we say, we want more to life. I want to learn this. I want to learn that. And then someone says, okay, pay attention to this part. And they go, no, 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 that part scares me. No. I want this over here, but without addressing this. And that's the theme around how people relate to sexuality. They say, oh, I want to be enlightened, I want to have these spiritual powers, I want to have pleasure in my life, but I don't want to address anything that has to do with the shame, the guilt that I have around sex, all of the beliefs that I have been taught around sex, all the perversion that I may carry around sex. No, leave that part alone and let me become enlightened by going to spiritual workshops. And you can't do that. That's why it's so important. It's so beautiful for me to be here and to share things in a space where it's actually a space created for that, because it's so needed.
Well, we've been talking this week about, the transcendence. Like, we know, all of us, the vertical spirituality, which is all about meditation and transcending, and we are very familiar with that. But the turn that this community has made in the last 5 years is really coming back to, we're speaking about dropping down.
Yeah. Not because let me just redefine the words. It is about transcending, but you cannot transcend something ignoring something. So what is the spiritual community? They say, okay, we're going to transcend the body, we're going to meditate. Well, basically what they're doing oftentimes in meditation is leaving the body and going somewhere else. And we call that transcendence. And I'm saying that once you actually get into the body and you clear through things, then you actually do transcend. So there is a transcendence, but it doesn't happen by running. It happens by being.
Yeah, and it's not even transcendence, because there is nothing in that place to transcend. It's all light, so there is nothing.
It's all light, but the part that or at least that I think we're speaking about when I say transcendence, it's transcending the part that makes you think, I am blah, blah, blah. But it's transcending the ego. It's transcending the part that says, I don't like this, I get triggered by this, I get hurt because of this, I'm miserable because of this. You're transcending that part that is false, but you only get to transcend and go past that falseness by becoming who you actually are. That is beyond all of those things. And you don't get there by running. You get there by diving in. It takes a lot of courage to be a diver.
And what is your practice? Do you have a practice?
Living my life. And that's the practice. But how do I live my life? Because like I said, some people live their life ignoring everything. I live my life paying attention to everything. Because I know that in all those situations, in all those interactions, and all of my insecurities, that's where the gifts are for my growth. So I enjoy the play. And in that play, I make so many mistakes. I fall off, I get back up, and I learn, oof, that was a big fall. What can I do next time? I have to do the same fall again. But I learn, okay, this time I don't fall as hard. And I keep learning. And that's the practice. Pay attention to everything. Stop blaming others. beautiful spiritual practice. Hold accountability for everything that happens to you in your life. You are never a victim of anything that goes on. So as you're moving through life and you're having experiences, you ask yourself, what is the gift in this? What is the message here? That's the truest teacher you could ever have. Life.
And is there devotion in your life? Like, is devotion...
Devotion to life? Because what is devotion? I guess I would say it's gratitude. And life doesn't work without gratitude. Everything here is based on gratitude. If you want to have a beautiful experience. Because it feels really good to be grateful. And it feels really bad to dislike everything. So when you're in gratitude, you're going to be a happy human being. And I don't care what kind of experiences you're going through, there's always something to be grateful for.
I wanted to ask you something about full body orgasm, but I don't know if you feel like...
You can ask me whatever you want.
Yeah, so what is it, and what is full body orgasm?
A full body orgasm is somebody that everybody gets excited to find out about. It's become in the spiritual community now the new trend in a way. And it's a powerful experience, and it's a healing modality. You know, as I said, these orgasmic states are healing modalities. So full body orgasm is when, at what we know to be a genital orgasm, if it was happening through your whole body, that's what a full body orgasm is. When that energy moves through the body freely, your whole being is one big orgasm. And that's what a full body orgasm is. It's very simple, it's very basic. It's become this kind of supernatural phenomenon. How do I have a full body orgasm? Breathe when you're feeling intensity in lovemaking. How many people do you know that actually express their sounds other than whoever is in the room next door here? Although it was short.
Short, I was disappointed.
But how many people express and breathe? When you allow that, all that energy that normally would be trapped in your genitals starts to spread through the whole body. And your whole body becomes an orgasm. Every cell in your body becomes an orgasm. And that's what a full body orgasm is. But now it's become this thing that everybody's infatuated with. But really, full body orgasms are a natural state for a human. And it's a natural state, just to tie back into the beginning of that conversation, it's the natural state that empowers humans to be loving, compassionate human beings. So I know everybody wants to know what a full body orgasm is.
How to get there.
How to get there and all of that. And it's fine, I understand. There's a process to everything. But the way that I look at life is I look past that. Those full body orgasms create beautiful human beings because they bring us back to our nature, and all of that is natural to us.
And does it spontaneously happen sometimes?
Oh, it can happen now if you want.
Yes.
But again, do you allow it, right? And all these activations, it's how you interact with your own body. So of course a full body orgasm can happen in lovemaking. It can happen in an embrace, it can happen in a kiss. Those are the easy places for it to happen. Yeah. But it can happen because you're just here feeling that sex move through your body until it's overwhelming and it takes you. Life is so generous. I told you nature is very simple, and it's always built on generosity and abundance. I mean, look at nature out here. Abundance all around. You think you're excluded from that nature?
And do you feel you have a direction in which you're moving with your work, or
I don't
it's
think
revealed as you move through, as you?
I don't think that I have a direction. I think the work has a direction and is pulling me along.
And is it clear, or it gets revealed as you move along?
Everything in life, from our point of view, is all the time revealed moment by moment. So you just sit back and you watch the ride. And that's what the work is doing. The work is like a really close friend that I trust, And life is a really close friend, in fact, a best friend that I trust. So then I just sit back and say, okay, you take me by the hand and lead me where you want, and I'll be there along for the ride. So we'll see. I don't know where this work is going to go just as much as you don't. But I know it's powerful, and I know it's transformative, and I know it moves you in the same way it does to a lot of people. And notice how when you let yourself breathe and let yourself feel how good it feels to be human and how good and pleasurable it feels to be alive.